that I wanted to talk to you about today is all the innovation that's currently going on within the Western and Wales route. So what you can see on my screen is we have a Spot the Robot Dog, which many of you, if you went to Rail Live, would have seen, but we are actually trialling some of the elements of Spot the Robot Dog on the Western route. Drones, which I spoke to you all about last time from Birmingham, and we've had some real progressive details with the drones and the uses that we're using them for now. The relative track surveying devices that we're rolling out across the Western routes. We have 3 here in total. We've got crossing cameras as well. We've also got a Terra deck that goes alongside our drones. Few of the things have come out of link there, so they're the wrong way round. We've got remote temperature gauges, which is what I'm going to talk to you about today, which is the CRM 3000, which you can see next to the crossing cameras picture. So it's just come out of lit sight a bit. We've also got camera-based off-road rovers, which is the 4x4 remote control vehicles that we're using. This is predominantly for locations and areas where we cannot send human beings. So things like drainage. Wales, a lady down there called Heled, who's the structures engineer, is looking at using these for sending them into tunnels before we send people. So giving us an idea of what the problem is. The issue that we have with tunnels, obviously, is falling debris. So actually sending people in there is actually creating a bigger risk. So what we wanted to try and do was actually find a way of ascertaining what the problem was before we actually send our people into tunnels. So this was a great way of doing it. The footage you can see there is of drainage. It's got 2 cameras on it for 360 degrees, so you can see everywhere above your head and around the sides. Really quite exciting at the moment. We've got 2 of those that we're using and trying on different things. Obviously, the 3D, 4D modelling and LiDAR, which I spoke to everybody about when I spoke about drones from Birmingham. But the key thing that for today is, whilst I leave this on the screen, was to talk about how we have always managed our temperatures out on the infrastructure. Obviously, for years now, we've sent people out, we put gauges on, they have to keep going out onto track when trains are running, taking the temperature, then going back, then coming back, and then going back out onto the track. And with the removal of unassisted lookout across Western and Wales, this actually became quite hard, because actually going out and being able to take a temperature whilst trying to take a line blockage or having that conversation with a signaller to go out and get that recording was becoming quite difficult. And it didn't matter how we tried to look at alternative ways in which we could find protection for those people, it was still really difficult just to get what we needed from the infrastructure. And whilst a lot of people say to me, well, it's about root cause, you know, you should be preventing speeds rather than trying to monitor them, that's great. But we still have an issue where we have to monitor speeds, the speeds on our infrastructure with the temperature. So Dan Vines, who used to work within the Safety Task Force, went around the industries and had a look at what alternative things were out there. And the CRM 3000 provides us with remotely temperature data. So this fixes onto the infrastructure. I do have a video to show in a second, but this fits onto the rail and can be there between 3 to 5 years. The updates to the actual piece of equipment are ongoing all the time. And the great thing about the organisation that have provided us with this is the fact that they are looking at ways of improving it all the time. So it will stay up to date constantly, and it will do what we want it to do, whether it's 5 minutes of letting you know whether there's a change in the temperature, or whether it's 15 minutes, it will tell you that there's a change in the temperature. You can align it to look at certain specific areas. So if you have got speeds in certain locations that you know are coming up, from your registers or from the TSR board, or however you manage your risks associated with speeds, this can actually be used quite easily for that. Obviously, one of the best advantages is to remove the requirement for workers to enter the track to take temperatures, because we've always done it that way. And obviously it can also, when you set it up and the parameters that you give it, you can actually avoid unnecessary speed restrictions. You can anticipate potential failures. You can keep safety and efficiency at the top priority. So if you know that you're going to have this section of track and you know the locations, you can get out there and prepare for it rather than waiting. Reduce maintenance, downtime and related costs, bearing in mind if you've got somebody that used to have to traditionally go out to 5 speed locations or CRT sites, that's 5 people not doing what they should or could be doing in an alternative working environment. Obviously, it optimises the maintenance long-term planning, because actually you can get ahead of the game. So if you know it's going to be there, and don't forget, you don't have to take it off. It has to be calibrated once a year. And in comparison to some of the other technology that we looked at, actually, this was better for long-term planning as well as short-term. So if you know something's coming up, especially when you're doing things like renewals, when you've got CRT sites on for low periods of time, this is a great way of doing it without increasing the risk to people. And where this information goes, it can be shared with your engineers and you can have those conversations. And with the technology moving as quickly as it is, you can set boundaries. So if you've got sites that you know are going to be over a certain compliance, you can set that data, which is really good. So it works in comparison to other things on the market. For us, from a rail perspective, it's actually a game changer, not only for people, but for also to be compliant with our own standards as well. And it will show, obviously, from an audit perspective, what it is we're actually using it for. So the key things here is it also keeps our data safe. Obviously, if I was to ask anybody that works in the rail industry how many spreadsheets they have with their locations and their speeds and or monitoring, things like points and things like that, whilst we've got remote condition monitoring for our points, actually this could also help with that. So it could also help with failing assets. So it has a multiple of uses, which is really great. So it can also check status on the map display. So it comes with a map display, so you can actually look at the locations. It could also help with some trending. So it can also be used for a multiple level of things as well, in relation to where are you, where are your speeds, what are your CRT sites, and how you're managing that. It can make different tables and graphs for those that like a lot of data. It can produce quite a lot of significant detail for people that want to see that, for TSR boards or whatever it is you're using it for, and your CRT management systems. It can customize. The software is able to be customized to report on a dashboard element. So you can have a whole dashboard on what your CRT locations are and all the sites that you're managing for that. You can, as I said, you can set your thresholds. So you can set it specifically for where you are, and you can create then an alarm and or notifications of who that goes to, which actually then, if you think about it, you will have a team, rather than going out and checking that the temperature, you've actually got a team ready to go out and do what they need to. So actually it's being proactive rather than reactive. And the other side of this is, as I said before, we haven't explored it so much, but obviously we've got these in Western DU and Central. We haven't explored the other avenues, so there are other capabilities for it. So not just measuring temperature, it could be used for other potential failings within assets. So we are going to look into how that works. Now, I don't know whether this is going to work because of the lovely technology that we've had today, but there is a very short video that I should be able to share. So I stopped sharing my screen for 1 second. Hopefully this will come up. If not, then we'll just all go home. If I share this now on my own screen. I don't know if that's going to muck things up, but I'm sure somebody will tell us if they can't see my screen. So you can see it. What I'll do is I will make this big, and then what I'll do is hopefully the people in the room will be able to see my laptop. Is that helpful? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully you all managed to see that. I don't quite know what's happened now. Oh, Ocado's now playing, which is really good. So hopefully you were all able to see that. I'm going to just try stop sharing, but I don't know what's actually happened to my computer now. Let's just go down there. It's all. So we've got dodgy cables now. It come back on? Yeah, it's not coming up there, so should do it now. Okay. Phew. It's my IT skills coming in. So yeah, so that was the basic principle around oh sorry, can't do it now. It keeps coming out. All right. Right. Hopefully we're back. Are we back? Yeah. Right. So that was the basic principle of what I was here to talk about today. If there is a lot of things that we're doing on Western and Wales, remote disconnection devices, which you won't be able to see on there. This is the new way in applying additional protection for line blockages. That is being trialled in Bristol, and Wales are leading the way with that, with us remotely behind them. There are other initiatives and innovations that are out there that everybody can see. From a Network Rail perspective, it's on the Western Track Workforce Safety SharePoint. I'm more than happy to share with PWI and the members anything new that you want to talk about. If there's anything today in relation to what we're doing with some of these innovations, feel free to ask me. And that's my presentation for today.
Okay, thank you very much, Donna. Are there any questions in the room or online?
So I think that everybody needs to be unmuted, don't they?
Yeah, but I think we're going to say everyone gets a question.
None in the chat, yeah.
I'll stop sharing the screen a moment.
Yeah, so we've got a question from Dave Speakman. How much does the remote monitoring cost?
I've no idea. I don't know right now. I know Dan Vines is on the call. Dan, if you're on, feel free to answer the question in relation to cost.
So they're £275 per device per year. They're leased rather than bought. So that includes the access to the platform as well.
Thank you, Dan. So what does Spot the Dog do? Quite a lot. So we want to use it in conjunction with the drones. So it's great having an aerial platform, but for things like the tunnels, culverts, various elements, we would like to have the on the ground visual element as well. So we are doing a week's trial with Spot the Robot Dog to find out all of its capabilities. So it's capable of doing surveys. It has an arm that comes out of the top, quite freaky from a like sort of future perspective. It can pick up to 14 kilos. It can drag up to 20 kilos. We've had it picking up ballast within points, which obviously we don't really want people putting hands in points. So we've looked at the potential for it to do response, looked at it as part of the line clear verification process, but it's about having it for a trial for a week to actually see what its capabilities are. So we're working with our engineering team to ask them, what do you want it to have a look at? It has the capability of doing quite significant surveys, which is really, really good. But like I said, hopefully to work in conjunction with the drones, because having a high level overview and then having an on the line, the ground level view can be quite different. So yeah, that's what we're intending to do. And if anybody wants to come along to any of the trials, just please get in touch with me direct, and I'm more than happy for anybody to come and have a look at what it is we're doing.
One question on temperature gauges.
Yes.
Are they to concentrate on critical areas where they're known to be, or they set are they put everywhere?
You can put them wherever you deem necessary. So from an engineering perspective, you can actually just ask them, you know, if you're looking at particular locations on the network, you can just put them out there. You don't actually have to retrieve them. So you can put them anywhere that you want to as part of a planning process. So if, as an example, if you've got like a renewal site that you're going to, you can put them on there following the renewal so that you can monitor the temperature as part of the standard. So you can pick them up. They literally, the magnet is very strong, but it literally just goes onto the rail. So you can pick them off and take them and put them wherever you like.
Sorry, can I ask?
Yes.
Kind of network using how it actually transmits the data? Does it need to be line of sight to somewhere or anything like that?
So from a technical perspective, it uses its own platform. I think it's IoT platform, but that's where the data is held. And I think the key thing to remember with the CRM 3000 is the data is ours. So I'm not sure what platform they actually use to create on, but the data comes back to us. Yeah. I know Dan's on the call, so Dan's.
Yeah, I don't think there is any line side equipment.
No. Sorry, there's no other line side equipment for it. No, it is just that and the system operator.
So it's more like a mobile phone.
Yes, kind of thing. Yeah. So you don't need a cabinet at the side of the track to do any of that. So it doesn't require any further equipment. Dan, unless you want to add something else.
Yeah, so it doesn't use cellular data. It uses IoT, which is the same network that smart meters use. So it sends really small packages of data back to a platform that they helpfully called Insight. It's not our Insight, it's their Insight. And then that makes all of the decisions. So all of your thresholds and stuff is kept on the cloud rather than the device. So the device is just reporting the temperature.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so the IoT is the bit that the worry was there were other products out there, but you needed to have something in a cabinet that the data then ran to. This doesn't use any of that, which is good. I'm not paying for our own data like we tend to sometimes. Is there anything else?
Yeah, maybe a comment from me regarding CRT management, because that falls within quite an important topic, especially coming into the what we're hoping to be a hotter season now. But last year we had extremely hot temperature, or something that we haven't experienced in the UK before, and the equipment that Donna spoke about today is part of the strategy to better manage
Yeah.
the site where we've got the risk of the track buckling. But you mentioned earlier the fact that we need to look at the root cause, and the Wales and Western region have put a lot of effort this year to try to remove the causes, for buckles in the first place. So looking at stressing, ballast levels, and other things. So we've done actually very well with that within the regions. We've reduced drastically our number of sites, but there's still a place, for the new technology, as you explained, to increase safety by stopping people going on site, and then be more efficient in the way we manage CRT, which required sometimes a lot of people to go on the track to just watch a track for the day when it's hot.
Yeah. And I think that's the key element, isn't it? It's about planning, ensuring that you've got the right things in the right place. And actually, if you could prevent somebody going out onto the infrastructure using the technology that we've got, why would you not? And that's quite a key element for me. But it's also about making sure that we're using our teams to the best of their ability, not using someone to keep going out on track every 15 minutes to go and check the temperature, or every 5 minutes to check the temperature, when we can actually do that, and then they can be more proactive.
Are there any other questions online?
Somebody's got their hand up.
Hi. For those that don't know me, I'm Gary McFarlane. I'm Senior Project Engineer at High Output. So it was really just to say that we already use these thermometers, and they are a massive success to us. So really just pushing out that the platform's really good way of managing your CRT.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Yeah, we were aware that high output tend to use everything first, Gary. We're quite jealous, really. But you're absolutely right. And Helen's just put in the chat there, it's 4 people every day, just for where Helen is. And then you can imagine with Gary and high output, how many people they would have to over and above of the work that they do. So yeah, it's great, Gary. And I think there's more people that that really recognise this is actually the way forward. We need to make sure that this is first and foremost what we're looking at for anything to monitor CRT. It's the interesting part for me is the next level. So what other capabilities does it have from an asset management perspective? What is it capable of doing at the next level? So we've got CRT. What else can it do from a failure perspective? If it's got the ability for certain thresholds on there, what else can we use it for? And that's what I'm going to be pushing for next. And we're very lucky that the supplier wants to work with us and has worked really closely with Dan on what does the business need as opposed to what they want to give us, which is a really good way of working with the business in actually trying to adopt safer methods of working with what we actually need from a technology perspective, not just because it's there. So actually modifying those type of things like the CRM 3000, what other capabilities can it actually have, especially if it's fixed and prevents people going out on track.
No? On your presentation slide, you've got a drone there. Could you tell us what type of activities you do with drones and how that helps the business?
Yeah, so there's 2 drones on there. So there's the Helios. The Helios 2 was initially bought to undertake tunnel inspection. So it's the only drone that actually can fly within a confined space. So it's predominantly used in nuclear. So the tunnels, the chimneys that you see, it's used to ascertain cracks or movement within nuclear sites predominantly. We don't have those in the rail business, but it can be used for caves. So we do have caves on the network. So it can be used in a cave. It can be used in a tunnel. It can be used for surveying. It can do measurements. So if you've identified that you have a problem, it can then go in and see if that you can set it to see where that crack was, and then go back and see if there's any movement in those cracks. So it can be used for that. We use our drones for visual inspections. So they supplement visual inspections across the route of S&C. We do patrols with it, which is another supplement, and that's for the Bristol guys. We do overhead line with the thermal imagery with the drones, as well as the at height inspections for OLE. We also do telecom tower inspections. So obviously you've got workers that need to climb quite significantly with the new rules of working at height. That actually prevents them from going up there. Our drones have the capability of the zoom in there. You can actually see whether the bolt has actually moved or not. There are plenty of videos that the PWI also have, that if anybody wants to have a look at those, you're more than welcome. You might regret asking me about drones because I could talk about them for hours, and I'm conscious I'm not here. But with the drones, we also do, we can do incident response. So actually, if there's an incident going off, we can actually fly live, and the control and the moms, whoever's looking, can actually see what they're looking at live. We've done that on a couple of occasions with the Elizabeth line opening over on in London. We do vegetation, fence line, anything that's non-tactile. So the drones have a capability of doing quite a significant amount. It depends what you want and how you want to use them. We store our own data, so we don't actually pay for any platform for it either at the moment. But they do have so much capability, and we have, they're used daily. We've got a significant amount of drone operators now. They're used for OTP risk assessments, for ALO working, adjacent line open working. So they are used incredibly across the route. They do 3D mapping, 4D mapping, 2D mapping, LiDAR, loads of different things.
Very impressive.
A couple of questions on that then from Dave Speakman. Can you provide some details of the drones you're using?
Yeah, I have a whole list. I've got 13, so I'll happily put them in the chat, because if I was to sit here and memorize all of them, but I will absolutely. There is my previous, if you just bear with me a second, it might be really easy. So I did a drone presentation for the PWI on the 28th of May last year, and in that it was literally wholly about drones. So I'm hopeful that I can actually send this through to you. And it has the list in there, plus it has all the drones that we use, what drones are used where, what they used, what the different drones offer, and how we can actually adapt the way that we're working, obviously with removing people from the infrastructure, on how that works, so that is available there. There's a couple of other questions in there, isn't there? No drones in telecoms yet. No drones in telecoms yet. Where? Currently with a professional head. So if you're working on Western, the drones are there for everybody to use. You only have to request it. We have done some work with the telecoms teams, the GSMR masts, originally with Jonathan John and Darren Wilson, locally. So if there is anything, Adam, you want in relation to trialing or doing a proof of concept with telecoms, just shout afterwards, not literally, but get in touch with me and I'll happily go through the process. But the drones are there for everybody to use. It is only a request that you have to complete. Gary's asked a question: what distance can the drone be from the pilot? So we only have at the moment, and I'm assuming this is what you mean, so we only have line of sight at the moment, and it depends on what drone you're using. The drones that you can see up there, it's about 300 meters, between 270 and 300, maybe 350. The rule of thumb used to be 500 meters, but it depends, because you actually have to see the rotation of the drone. So it depends on where you are, what you're doing, but we only have line of sight at the moment. We have been requesting extended line of sight, and there are trials for beyond visual line of sight. So it will depend on how we get on with those, but we are pushing for an extended line of sight, which means that the operator doesn't actually have to see the drone.
So is that sort of goggle based, is it?
No, so we tried using we tried using the nice VR headset types things, but we ended up with our patrollers feeling rather ill, getting up not feeling quite with it. So they actually watch it on a TV screen, but the drone operator obviously can only control the drone, so he'll have his handheld here. The footage from the drone will be on a TV screen, and the drone will just fly wherever the patroller wants them to, but they have to physically see the rotation of the blades on the drone until we try and get extended line of sight. And then obviously beyond visual line of sight would be great, but I'm not quite sure what benefits that would bring in relation to what we would require it to do on the railway. Does that answer your question, Gary?
Yeah, that's pretty
Cool.
straightforward. All I was thinking in my head was, I suppose in conjunction with the last device, was around possible heat patrolling. So do we think the drone could be good enough?
Done
Because I
that.
think,
Yeah,
yes,
so we have used it, the thermal imaging, because it's not infrared, it's thermal imagery. We
Yeah.
have done it on a couple of sites. We had an incident with some cows, and whilst we were up there, the head of maintenance at the time asked the drone operator, while you're up there, could you switch to thermal and just have a look at what the temperature is of the track? So we have used it in the past. It is something that we could do working in conjunction with quite easily. I don't see an issue with trial. It's just trial and error, Gary, especially with the drones. It would be great to get the drones out with high output at some point, just to see what we can play around with it with, because you guys are quite open to different types of technology as well.
Yeah, I mean, we did do a trial ourselves on one of your sites actually at Masters.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that, what we've been looking at, I think with Richard, I'm on a Mod 14 group around CRT management, and we're kind of looking if the drone footage could help supplement or replace the likelihood of the heat watch guy having to walk after the passage of every train, which we know is impossible at the moment anyway. But if the actual images that it produces would be good enough, so if you use your remote thermometer on, so you're getting that, and then the drone's kind of going up every half an hour or whatever to have a look, do we think that drone would be good enough to kind of possibly see a buckle?
100%. 100%. Yeah. I think it would be really good if we just maybe had a chat, Gary, and see what we can do moving that forward, because it is something that we looked at last year.
Right. Cool. Yeah.
So definitely 100% something that would be good.
No more questions.
Just popped in from Richard Price. What's the survey band accuracy of the drones?
I've no idea. Don't know.
No,
I don't know the answer to that question. If I had one of my techie guys on here, either Liam or Michael, then they'd most probably be able to answer. But what I will do is I'll take that question and I will get back to Richard.
Do you want me to answer it, Donna?
Oh, Dan. Sorry, you've gone off my screen, Dan. I didn't see you. Dan, you can answer that if you like.
It depends on the payload that the drone's using. So the accuracy doesn't come from the drone, it comes from the payload that's being used. So currently I think it's about 30 millimeters when you do a 3D map, but there are payloads that we're not currently allowed to use that are band 1 accuracy if you use ground control.
Thanks, Dan.
Right.
Dan was one of my drone operators as well, if you hadn't guessed that already. There you go, thank you.
Okay, are there any last question on the chat? No?
Obviously, I am around if anybody wants to know anything about the innovation that we're using or wants to come along to have a look at what's going on, or anything to do with, or if they've got some ideas, great, even better. But yeah, please just get in touch with me.
Okay, that's brilliant, Donna. So before I close the meeting, I'd like to thank Donna to come and have presented on technology, and considering the number of questions we have you know, it's people are always very interested to know what's going on, what are the new things coming on the market, and how it's used on the railway. And it's great to have you to be able to drive that in within the region. So thank you very much today for presenting to us, and we could show our appreciation in the normal way, please.
The virtual claps is great.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you in September. Have a good summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Donna.
Thanks, Helen.